Twitch, did you think you were done with me today? No, 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 no. Welcome back. I'm Carlos A.S. Lising, and this is a very special episode of Castle Talk. Um, Last week, you might remember I had a Castle Talk episode with my good friend Dave Ryak and my new friend Cad, which I called talking about my generation, which we were generating characters in for a first edition game that's upcoming. We're talking about my generation again tonight, as you can read at the bottom of the screen. And over here on my left, I'd like to introduce again Dave Ryak, my great friend from the Cannon Fire uh, website.
IRC.
IRC, thank you. And over there on my right is Jigs. Jigs and I were friends through Dave, and super guy. And I got a chance to meet him primarily. Well, you and I and Jigs knew each other a little bit from the Cannon Fire server as well, but primarily we knew each other because I was running a forum-based game for a very short time called Land of Black Ice. Some of you might be familiar with it. And
Moment
Jigs
of
was a player in it for a
silence.
very short time. Jigs, you were saying that you really enjoyed that game, and the format killed you. Explain to me a little bit more about what about the forum thing that killed it for you.
There is something that's indescribable about being either in person or face to face with someone, being able to read them, their reactions, and being able to converse in a manner that elicits and conveys emotion quickly. And you lose that when you're in a forum and you spend a lot of time trying to describe it. And a great example of this for me might have been Lord of the Rings, one of Tolkien's books. He spends 2-3 pages talking about the land, talking about the people, talking about what's going on. Meanwhile, if you were just standing there, you'd have a much better idea than even what perhaps the book could give you. So that's something that I missed in that format, and it was something that was difficult for me as someone who, at the time, I don't know, perhaps didn't have the time or really the interest to try to communicate through just typing to each other. I wanted to be face to face, and being able to see you and see Dave was very exciting for me.
Yeah, it's great for me too, and I think that there's something for those of you who are watching us right now live. First of all, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. But there's something really we were talking about this before we came on. I wanted Jigs to hold that thought because I think there's something really salient about that. We're now living, for better or for worse, we've been forced into this existence now because of the pandemic, where we're doing a lot of online gaming. It's happening a lot. Now, before then, there was this whole era that we were doing a lot of forum-based gaming. And Jigs, I don't know if you've actually done any online gaming like this that we're about ready that we're going to embark on here.
Not yet.
But he's absolutely right. There's something about being able to read subtext from your DM's face and his body language that it's lost in translation when you're doing stuff like that's either pure text or pure video, like if you were doing Roll20 and you're looking at a map. That's primarily why I like to have my face up here, so you can actually see the emotion, you can hear my voice, you hear inflection, there's tonal response, and it conveys this whole subtext of information that you're not getting. And I can do something in 10 minutes here that would take me a week and a half of posting to do via forum games. So I totally know where you're coming from, Cad. And I hope you understand, or Cad, Jigs. I hope you understand. I just
You're just playing with them,
and I was staring at Cad for the last hour. But it was. I hope that this experience is a little bit more rewarding. You have to tell us when you're done how you feel it compares to like where you're actually sitting around a table. Is it a good substitute for that or not? Because I think you're in a unique position to be able to judge that.
I'm already enjoying it more.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So I'll go with that.
Super good guy. For all of you guys who are watching us out there, he brings something to the table that I think my groups are missing, for the exception of Matt Luzinski. He's a very passionate dude. You can tell it in his voice right away. You can hear that he's excited, and I really like that. It adds dynamism to the whole pot that I think is really good to have in a group. But let's talk about my generation a little bit. Jigs, before we go any further, I'd like you to tell the audience that's watching. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background with Dungeons and Dragons and the editions that you've played, how long you've been playing, the kind of stuff you enjoy and don't enjoy.
Oh boy, that's gonna scare you.
No, 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 it won't scare me a bit. Please hit me
Okay.
with it.
The reason why is because wow, I haven't thought about this question. I don't think ever in my life. I think Dungeons and Dragons for me started when, very strangely, I was maybe 11. I was at camp and there was a board game, and it was the Dungeons and Dragons board game.
Okay.
Is that even a thing that you guys remember? I still have a copy of that
It could be Dungeon,
myself.
the board game that you're talking about, or it could be an actual Dungeons and Dragons board game. Could
It's
be
a
either.
it's a it's a well, as far as I remembered it, it was a Dungeons and Dragons board game, and in that board game, they walk you through entering rooms, and when you enter rooms, you basically read from a book,
Right.
and things happen. You have to make choices, and then
Oh yeah.
that was my foray into Dungeons and Dragons. That was a long time ago. It wasn't really though until about maybe 7 or 8 years ago that I had some friends, and they pulled me into Pathfinder.
Okay.
So that is its own version of Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And there, I played two campaigns that really took me 3-4 years each. Rise of the Rune Lords. Actually played through twice, two different characters, which is strange, but they were incredibly different experiences because they were with two DMs.
Mm-hmm.
There was your campaign. And there may have been one or two others. And when I say one or two others, I mean I did a bunch of Pathfinder Society. And that's stuff that I did in and out of different game shops. Those were very railroady,
Right. Mm-hmm.
where you kind of go in there and they want to get through and get to the loot as soon as possible.
Sure. Sure.
That wasn't an
Convention
experience I
play,
enjoyed.
for me, being that I have kind of made my name recently as a convention DM, convention play differs so dramatically from campaign play because in convention play, you're letting it all hang out. You know, you got that character for 3 hours and you have no consequences. Let's just let fly. Whereas if you're playing a campaign character, you're a little more circumspect. You're thinking to yourself, do I want to drink that potion or not? Do I want to save that spell or not? It's a little bit of a different kind of feel. So, Dave, it occurs to me now that you and I uh, both of us have more combined experience than these guys have probably been alive in the game. But that's okay. You and then him and Cad.
Yeah, but I also have like a 20-year gap.
That's true.
Well,
That's true.
not quite 20,
But
but
you're still an OG as far as I'm concerned. So, um, we're gonna go and we're gonna begin with the character generation process right now. For those of you who are tuning in with us, um, as far as the character generation process goes in first edition, because that's what we're going to be doing is playing first edition D&D. It's my first love, and I think Dave and I were talking a little bit before um, about different editions, and I kind of liken them to tools in a toolbox. They all do something well. Um, it just so happens that the first edition rule set supports the kind of play that I prefer. And I think, Dave, you actually said that yourself, and I think that that's really about the best way to possibly put it. So um, we're going to go, and we're going to start right now. Jig, do you have your dice with you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, awesome. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to generate these characters the exact same way that we generated Cad's and Dave's characters the other day. We're going
Sounds
to go
good.
right down the line. You're going to notice that the attributes are arranged differently from Pathfinder to First Edition, okay? So don't be surprised that we're going what seems like a little bit out of order. So we're going to start with your strength first. Roll 3d6 and tell me what you got.
3d6.
Yep.
I got 13.
Okay. And before I go any further, I should mention, for you, Jigs, your benefit, and everybody out there who's watching, this is, we're going to play what's called a funnel, okay? What that basically is you're going to be playing 3 simultaneous characters that we're all generating right now at the same time. This will allow you to decide what you like to play best, what you feel like you're most invested in, and the game is going to be pretty deadly in first edition, so you're probably going to lose 2 of them pretty fast. So it'll give you an idea. It separates the wheat from the chaff pretty nicely, and it gives you a more well-rounded experience for your first go-around maybe than a traditional game where you say maybe you're playing a druid the first time, and then you're like, I'm turned off to first edition because I hated the druid experience. Well, you never got a chance to play anything else, so it's kind of hard to say. So this will give you a little bit more of a well-rounded experience.
Now,
Okay,
now
let's do
Dave
your.
did,
Oh, go ahead. I'm
Dave
sorry.
did Dave did pull me into a Dungeons Deep and Dark second edition spin-off.
Nice.
So, he warned me that, and that characters may die because it was an older version of D&D. So I'm used to the one where, your character's quite heroic and never really will die. None of my characters have ever died. So in this case, I'm ready to get down and dirty and bloody.
We're going to put a stop to that here.
Yeah, right.
So,
we're going to get it done.
Anyway, why don't you go with your intelligence for this character, buddy?
You got it. 613 is 10.
Okay. Wisdom?
Wish I had 3d6. Hold on one sec.
3d6. In the meantime, Dave,
14.
Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll continue on with this. Dexterity?
8. 12.
Okay. Your constitution?
10.
So far, you're pretty well rounded. And now your charisma. I probably just put the kisses out on you.
14.
Right, nice. This character could do a lot of different things over here. I don't see that you're really, you're not overwhelmingly great at one thing, but you're good at a lot of things, okay? Your strength is pretty decent. Your wisdom is pretty decent. And your charisma is pretty decent. We're going to talk about archetypes here, Jig, for a second, okay? Hey, Chantel, good to see you. Thanks for coming and watching our game. Jig, just so you know, first edition is a little bit different than your later editions in that you're basically playing an archetype for your classes, okay? And the 4 primary archetypes are the cleric, the fighter, the magic user, and the thief, okay? Now, based on those archetypes, there are subclasses to them, okay? But I want to talk about primarily what you qualify for and what you don't, because to get into the subclasses for those 4 archetypes, you usually have to have a high stat to get into one of them. This character that you rolled up would qualify for a few different of these archetypes. He would qualify as a magic user. He would qualify as a thief. He would qualify as a fighter. But the thing he would probably do best at, given what I'm looking at, is a cleric. Your wisdom is high. You have a decent strength. And your charisma is pretty decent. These are all hallmark traits of the cleric. Would you be interested in playing a cleric with this class, or would you like to play against type a little bit and try and play one of the other archetypes?
I've never been a cleric. I think I should do it.
Okay, let's go with a cleric on this guy.
Oh. And just in the order that was...
Be a heal bot for once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. See how it feels, Jake. I'm always the damage dealer, I guess. So.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that, man. Hey, any character in first edition without a cleric is a dead character. I can tell you that.
You got
right
it.
Now. So you can't have too many clerics around. So
sounds good.
Why don't we go ahead and we'll create the second one now. Your second character.
Okay. All right. 11. Oh my God. 17.
All right. You were talking about damage dealers. Well, here's your guy.
All right.
Let's go with
Is that strength?
Intelligence?
All right. 5, 2, 7, and 3 is 10.
Okay. So far, nobody's going to beat Dave's dwarf for pure strength, I don't think. But
he rolled like an 18?
Oh, 1881.
Oh
my God.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but 3 hit points.
6, 5, 6 is...
I wasn't going to out you on that one.
17.
17 wisdom. You know where this guy's shaping up right now, Dave. Keep going with your dexterity, please.
Yeah, watch me roll like a 3. Okay, 4, 6 is 10, and 4 is 14.
Still qualified. Okay, if you roll over an 11 for this one, you qualify for one of the subclasses that would be very interesting for you to play, I think.
That's a 4. 5 is 9. 2 is 11.
11. Okay, And last
All
would be
right.
your charisma. What do you? Why don't you tell me what you go with that?
6, 2 is 8, 6 is 14.
Wow, this guy's really good. Okay, now here's your things.
Magic dice.
This character qualifies for fighter with that high strength. He also qualifies for magic user, although I think he would be a very poor magic user with a low intelligence there. He qualifies as a thief. He has a high enough dexterity. He qualifies as a cleric with that high wisdom. In fact, he would probably be, of the 4 archetypes, he would probably be best at being a cleric. However, this character qualifies primarily for one of the subclasses, which is the monk. It is possibly the hardest subclass to get into because you need about 5 or 6 abilities to be high, and you aced them all what you needed. If you're interested in being a monk, you can be a monk. However, I'm going to hit you with the good news of being a monk and a bad news of being a monk. The good news of being a monk is that you have a lot of abilities that nobody else has. You have the ability to you are a very jack of all trades character. You have some thieving abilities, you have open hand attacks, and as you gain levels, you can be absolutely lethal. That's the good news. The bad news is
Oh, can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can only use my fists and I can have no worldly possessions.
Wrong.
Darn. Okay.
No, the hard part about being a monk is that it is really hard to stay alive at low levels.
Oh, okay.
You'll have D4 hit dice, 2d4 hit dice at first level, plus you don't have a constitution bonus to add to that. And you don't do a ton of damage at first level. You'll struggle to stay alive at first level as a monk. However, unless you try it, you'll never have a chance to get to higher level.
I'm writing monk down.
All right, monk it is.
Boom, cleric monk.
And I'm going to tell you something too. With the characters that are around in the rest of the group, having a non-conventional character like that is good. You have all the other characters have all the other bases covered really nicely. So having something to add differently to the mix is going to be really nice. Okay, let's go with the third character right now.
All right, 2. Oh God, 4 dice. 2. That's a 6.
Oh yeah, you're right, Chantal. Bard is hardest to qualify, but remember you can't qualify for Bard at first level. And you were saying now, what was that first one?
It was a 6.
Okay, 6. Ooh, that's ugly. Okay, what do you got for your second?
All right, 1, 4, and 5. That's a 5. That's 11.
Oh, 11. Okay.
We're gonna go with the next one. 6, 7, and a 6 is 13.
13 for wisdom.
2, 7, 9. These are all my low rolls. 3, 6. That's a 12. All right. Okay, 1, 1, 2. That's a 4.
We have a 4 charisma.
It's like me in real life.
Oh no!
This character is pretty brutal. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah.
But he could still have his. There's certain things that you could qualify for with him.
A mule.
You could not qualify as a fighter. You do not have a 9 strength, so no fighter.
Okay.
You could qualify as a cleric with a 13 wisdom, so that's good. So you're not totally useless. You could qualify as a magic user with an 11 intelligence, but man, you're gonna suck at it. You could barely qualify as a thief with that 9 dexterity. But as a character who will be relied on to do some damage, that 6 strength is going to be a little dicey. If I were you, I would think about either the cleric archetype or the magic user class. Up to you.
Cleric.
Okay, cleric. That's good. We have 2 clerics and a monk.
Maybe she should be a peasant.
Jig's gone and got religion.
Is that a class?
Jig's gone and got religion on us. Now, I wanted to do this a little bit out of order to show you that there's more. Today, we did this in a little bit different of an order than we did in the other episode. And I want to do that on purpose because I want to show everybody out there that character generation can be done in more than one way to achieve an effect, okay? we're going to talk about your race now, okay? Because racial bonuses can support or they can hinder a build of a particular class because
Absolutely.
you'll get certain bonuses and in your characteristics for those. So we're going to look at your cleric first. Now the bad news is that there is no class out there that will give you a wisdom bonus. There is a class or a race, I should say, that will give you a wisdom bonus. There's a race that will give you a wisdom penalty, but there's no race that gets a wisdom bonus. So looking at this right now, you could play a human if you wanted to, and the best thing about a human is that there's no limit to what level you can go to. That's great. If you wanted to play one of the demi-human classes, which is Elvish, Gnomish, Dwarvish, Pure Elf, or Half-Orc, you could do one of those things. And each one of them would give you a different bonus to your abilities or a penalty. And in some cases, both. For example, if we wanted to make this guy an elf, we would give him a +1 in his intelligence, but we'd give him a -1 in his constitution. Excuse me. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that with this character. In fact,
because I got a 10 already, right?
Yeah. In fact,
Okay.
if I were you, I would go ahead and make both your monk and your monk character has to be human. That's a prerequisite of that character. So he's
This guy's human
for sure.
or girl. Okay, monk is human.
Yep.
But for the first,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna ask for the first cleric. You said there were pluses and minuses to each. So which are the races that will not give me a negative to wisdom?
Well, anything
that aren't elfish or human.
You want to choose, if you want to be an elf, no penalty. The only thing that you could choose and have a penalty to wisdom would be a halfling. Okay, you want to avoid being a halfling with these two characters because of the wisdom penalty. However, if you want to double down on having a terrible charisma, but you want to give yourself a little bit more strength, you can take a half-orc character and have a penalty of -2 to your charisma, but a +1 to your strength. If you want to be a dwarven character, we could give you a +1 to your strength. If you want to take an elvish character, we could give you a +1 to your intelligence. It depends on, do you want to play to your strengths, or do you want to play to, or you want to make yourself more well-rounded?
I mean, the dwarf and the elf sounded kind of fun.
Okay.
Right? Because that would give me a...
The dwarf is going to be the +1 to strength, where the elf is going to be a +1 to your intelligence, but a -1 to constitution.
Oh, okay. Well, why not a dwarf? I mean, we got some dwarves in the party.
I sense a theme here. Dave's characters were all 3 dwarves.
Okay, well, we might come from the same place. Who knows?
That could be
I
true.
hate you already.
Whether or not Dave will accept you or not is a total different question.
You're right. Out in the cold.
No.
We don't like your kind of dwarf, dude.
And finally, your third character. Would you like to? This guy's pretty rugged. You're gonna have to be careful about what race you choose with him.
So this is a cleric too.
He's a cleric.
Why not make him an elf?
Okay. Well, go ahead and get -1 for your constitution and +1 for your intelligence.
That's silly to do that, isn't it? What would you suggest here? I mean, the character's already bad. Why not halfling?
I would suggest half-orc with this character, actually. Reduce that charisma to 3, which is racial minimum, and then take your strength up to 7.
Okay, let's do it. Why not? Go big or go home, right? So -1.
I agree. And we can have some fun with the role play on that.
Hey, give him an aboleth character.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds terrible.
Wrong edition. Okay, so we have a half-orc there. So the characters that we have created so far, we have we have 2 clerics. One is a dwarf, one is a half-orc, and the other is a human monk. Okay, I can tell already who's going to live and who's going to die out of this group. But
don't give it away.
Oh, no, I won't. Don't worry, I won't give it away.
Is that our second half-orc cleric in this game?
Nope, here's our first.
All right, I'm misremembering what Cad did.
No, Cad has... Let me look back here. Cad went with a half elf, a man. I flipped the wrong page. He has a half elf. Oh no, he does. You're right. He has a half orc cleric. That's the second one.
That's weird.
Because he worships your truce. The god. Well, we have to talk about all that here in a second. Okay, now Jig, I want to talk about this a little bit about philosophy with 1E a little bit, and this I want to bring Dave in. 1E is often referred to as a resource management game.
Okay.
It's a huge part of the 1E experience. And Dave, why don't you try and explain to Jigs what's meant by that when people say that, in opposition to say third and later editions.
So the more heroic editions, and I use that as a pejorative, believe me. Your character does everything required, more or less. And in first edition in particular, and we've talked a little bit about this in the past, Jakes and I, that, the idea of using henchmen and hirelings to deal with some of the circumstances matters. And that's a resource. Especially hirelings, right? Like, they're faceless, they're virtually nameless, they won't do any fighting for you except under very rare circunstances.
They can hold a 10-foot pole.
Initiate.
We can attach them to a 10-foot pole.
Right, no, right. They're like, your torchbearer is the torchbearer. He's a third arm for you. It's a way to manage the resource of light and the resource of your torches. But in addition, there's the question of food and water, and how much that matters in a game will vary. It may even matter at different points in the campaign. A DM might say, well, you're in the desert, so we're going to track this. But if you're in town, nobody cares.
A good example of what Dave is talking about would have been, for example, in the Land of Black Ice campaign that we were running online, where you're in an exploration in a strange land. You have no idea what the environment is going to be like or what is good to eat or drink even. You better believe I was going to be keeping track very carefully of your resources. Whereas if you're in familiar territory, it may not be that big of a deal. So that's a great example of what we're talking about.
Even in a dungeon, like, if you've got a fairly clear path of retreat back out, and then it's like a woods, it's a regular old woods that your characters are fairly used to, you might not really worry about it. Like, go eat some acorn mush or whatever.
Right.
But there's other things like spell casting requires materials, and do you track those? How much detail do you track those? It turns out if you do it with full detail, man, it can be very difficult. All of a sudden, you can't afford a 500 gold piece gem right now. You just can't cast that spell for the next couple weeks.
Your best spell might be totally useless to you. Let's say you have Stone Skin. Hey, it's a great spell, except that it requires 1,000 gold pieces of diamond dust. Good luck with that. So, what Dave says is very much true.
Or even the resource of money. Money is experience points. How much loot can you carry out? And which loot do you carry out? It may vary quite a bit. And not only is it a resource in its own terms, but then it defines how you handle things later. Like, if you don't carry out that excess gold and you can't sell... Oh, probably. I'm using my bad mic. I can fix that.
That's okay. I'll pick up if you need to change over. I'll pick up your thought.
Just takes a second.
Okay. Yeah, when he was loot back in the day in the first edition, what they did was you actually got experience points for gold. Every magic item, everything you did, there was a 1-for-1. You find 10 gold pieces. Guess what? That's 10 experience points. And there was such a good way of limiting that back in the day, because training for your next level cost money. Everything cost money back in the day. So what he's saying is very salient, and I wanted to get that across in this in kind of your introductory to the game.
Costs a lot of money, incidentally. Do I sound better, by the way?
You sound
Much better.
100 times better. 100 times better.
Fixed.
Cool.
But anyway, yeah, what he is saying is very true, and it's something to always keep in mind. Your resources and the way you manage them in first edition. If you can master resource management, you've gone a long way to doing well in the game. And it's one of the ways you can always tell a veteran player from a novice in first edition is that their character sheet is going to look like an absolute mess of resources. They're going to talk about hirelings a lot. They're going to talk about henchmen a lot. It wasn't uncommon back in the Gygax days to have, pardon me. Thank you. They have 20 people, literally 20 characters running around in a module. And it happened. So you're going to have that.
They had that. They had 20 actual players in some of those games.
Yeah. Well, and that's also because it's so deadly. It had to be that way.
Gotcha. Sounds good. I'm excited for it.
I remember as a kid, the first game I played, they dealt with that kind of stuff, and then for many years, we didn't deal with hirelings, henchmen, resource management much. And that became like advanced level stuff for a long time. Particularly, you're 7th level. Well, now, right, you start getting followers, that kind of thing's going on. But when we tried it again, probably in my mid-teens, I enjoyed that much more. It becomes almost a simulationist approach, and we talked about this many times, all three of us. The way that your character emerges from those circumstances, rather than you define your character and move forward.
Keep in mind one other thing if you actually happen to have more than one of your characters survive this, I may very well give you the opportunity to play that second character as a hireling or henchman. So keep that in mind.
I already have one in mind.
Okay, awesome.
No, just teasing because I got this.
Let's go ahead and roll your hit points, okay, for your characters. The first thing you're going to want to roll is for your first cleric. So give me a D8 and tell me what your result is.
1.
Brutal. With no Constitution bonus, you have 1 hit point for that first cleric.
You're fired. Learn to roll.
Now hit me with 2d4, and if you roll a 1 again, I'll know that something's up.
All right, I rolled a 5 and a 6.
On 2d4?
On 2d4?
I'm using 2d6.
Right.
It's a good thing you knew something was up.
It's a good roll, though. It's a really good roll.
4 and a 3.
Oh, wow. Your monk has 7 hit points. Well done.
Good thing I got these suckers.
I actually did not recall 2 hit dice at first level for monks.
Yeah, monks are 2d4 at first, and rangers are 2d8.
Right, and so for years, somehow my primary DM did not remember that rangers were 2d8.
I had somebody at my table at a convention game look at their first level ranger and said, "This ranger has 20 hit points. Is that a typo?" No, it's very possible. Go ahead, Jigs, and hit me with your a D8 for your last orc.
All right, checking. This one's a D8. All right, 4.
Okay, so we have 1, 7, and 4 hit points. That's a rough customer right there, but I like what you got here for the most part. Now, we're going to talk about your spellcasters. This is very important, okay, because the bread and butter for spellcasters is your spells. Stands to reason, right? But they perform a little bit differently in first edition between your divine spellcasters and your arcane spellcasters. Your divine spellcasters are able to cast any spell of the level that you have access to. For example, let's say you have a list of 8 first level spells, okay, as a cleric. You can pray for any one of those and be relatively assured, as long as you've been playing your class and your alignment properly, you can be pretty sure you're going to get that spell. It's very flexible, so you can go in and out of spells very easily. Where you're a magic user, you only have a certain number of spells that's relative to your intelligence. This is not really a big deal to you because you're playing both clerics. So I did want to mention though, so that for your information, there is a magic user in this group, and you'll wonder sometimes otherwise why he's not picking certain spells. He just doesn't have them in his spell book. Now, your clerics are going to worship certain gods. Those gods are the ones that are going to give you your spells, okay? Now, we're going to ask you right away, would you like for your dwarf to worship a primarily dwarven god or somebody that's more universal? And it doesn't matter, this is flavor, but in the future, it may very well affect spells that you have access to.
Dwarven god?
Okay. You're going to pick a dwarven god. Would you like to pick their over god, Moradin, or would you like to pick one of the lesser gods that is a little bit more geared towards a certain aspect of dwarven life?
Lesser?
Okay. If you would like to pick one of the lesser, I will tell you the ones that are available to you, which are all in the back of Unearthed Arcana.
The third one.
The third one? Are you sure?
Yeah,
because I think I think I know who the third one is, and I don't know if you want to pick that.
Okay. Well, the only reason why I say that is because typically, like, this would be a something of circumstance, right? You'd be sort of born into and raised into this.
Right.
It's almost random, so it kind of makes me want to throw a random element into it. Maybe I should listen to them. And
if you would like to do that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have rolled me a d6. That's a good idea. Let's do it.
There we go. Bam! 4.
You are the worshiper of 1, 2, 3, 4 of Abathor, the great master of greed.
Yes! Money!
Abathor is neutral evil.
Oh, okay.
So when we get to, now that we picked your god, we're going to choose your alignment. You do not have to be evil, but you cannot be good. Would you like to play an evilly aligned character or a good
character?
Or a neutral character?
Wouldn't I end up chaotic neutral?
Okay, you want to be chaotic neutral? That's fine.
Don't let yourself be railroaded. Stand up for yourself.
What? I want to be evil. Is that what I can? No, I don't. Can you?
Choice.
Hold on. Hold on. Can you play an evil character?
Yes, you can play an evil
character. Too.
You have to keep in mind this when you're playing an evil character. Evil can take a lot of different forms. Evil can be selfish. Evil can be. Think of your 7 deadly sins, for example.
Sure.
Evil could just mean that you're a very jealous person. You're very wrathful, and you could be totally normal besides that. So you could take evil in a lot of different ways. You could be a perfectly normal dude. If you want to, but you worship Abathor, who's the god of wealth, and we'll say you're just greedy as hell. And
he'd just be an ANCAP like me.
And it just totally influences all your other thinking.
What is Dave? Does he have a neutral evil character?
That, but Dave can tell you that if you'd like.
Oh,
I have 2 of my characters are lawful evil.
Lawful evil?
Yes, they are.
Oh, I'm so being neutral evil. I've never done this. Let's do it.
All right, we got a neutral.
I also think 2 of Cad's characters are evil, and 1 is. We're kind of a crummy crew, really.
You really are. Okay, neutral.
Wait a second. Hold on. This is a little strange to me. What's going to happen if my other characters are good? They're not going to get along.
You're absolutely right.
What are you talking about? You get along with me.
Well, you're arguably not as evil as some.
Actually, Jigs, let's think about that for a second. It's the truth. There are people that you know in your life that you get along with just fine that are evil, and you do that for mutual benefit. For example, you may call them a work colleague. You may call them somebody in your family. You may call them something else.
Or they're just dead sexy.
Because of circumstance, you can very easily say, you know what, I hate the way this guy acts, but I look the other way because he's family. Or because, you know what, my dad was a friend of his dad's and we grew up together. And even though I hate the fact that he's mean to animals,
You know what, Jigs? I got the perfect one, and I won't go into detail because I don't want to do that publicly. But remember our argument over how religion is the primary thing that makes good people do evil things?
Oh boy, that's a deep one.
Right. Well, remember my opinion on what you said. That's what we're talking about here. Evil doesn't have to be a caricature of evil like we're used to in movies and TV and typical high fantasy that everybody's used to today.
Right.
Like my lawful evil characters, you're not going to know that they're evil most of the time. They would remind you of Americans that turned into dwarfs and moved to Greyhawk.
Capitalists, maybe. I'll give you a good example. Another good example,
Okay.
Jigs. You may be absolutely, totally fine at all times, except for when it comes to money. You happen to worship Abathor, and you're like, you know what? It's every man for himself when it comes, or every dwarf for himself when it comes to cash.
This will be so interesting. I'm excited to give this a go. Let's do it.
You remember that old joke about you throw the money up, and if it lands in the circle, I give it to God, and the other guy says, well, I throw it up, and if it lands outside the circle, I'll give it to God. And then the rabbi says, well, I throw it into the air, and whatever God catches, he can keep.
Nice.
Nice.
Okay, so we're going to go
neutral evil.
Really how I feel, so.
And there's an alignment restriction with monks that they have to have a lawful component to their alignment. Okay. However, you can be lawful good, lawful neutral, or lawful evil. I will let you choose which would you prefer to be.
On my monk.
Yep. You could be lawful good, lawful evil, lawful neutral. Up to you.
Oh my gosh, these are alignments that are a little off of what I'm familiar with.
Now, keep in mind this.
Can we come back to the monk?
Keep in mind this with law. Much like evil has shades, so does law. I consider myself, for example, to be a chaotic person, okay? I'm a chaotic good in my mind. I very much care more about the fact that whether something... I want everybody to profit from things. However, does that mean that I run around and disrespect the law every turn? Of course not. No, because I live in a society. So it does not mean that you have to be willy-nilly going around doing whatever the hell you want. You can still have respect for the law and be chaotic.
I'm gonna say lawful neutral.
Okay. This means to me that you really don't care who benefits.
You sicken me.
You don't care who benefits from position as long as the law is being obeyed. That's your pretty much your platform from lawful neutral.
Okay,
as long as there's order to it, then who cares? The rest of it come what may.
Spotted the snitch.
What's that?
Spotted the snitch.
Oh, that's the snitch class? No, I don't. Alignment? I'm not doing the snitch alignment.
Snitch alignment.
Jeez.
Where did you come up with the snitch alignment from?
I'm gonna go with lawful good because I'm not a fan of the lawful evil. That just is like, I don't know. That's gonna be really tough for me.
Okay.
I'd be like a super villain.
What are you talking?
Lawful evil is more like lawful selfish, really.
Okay.
Basically, lawful evil means we have laws in place in our society, and I am more than willing to use them to come out on top. There's a structure to society, and I really don't care about anybody else but me. That's a lawful evil point of view.
That sounds like...
Forget it. Let's cancel the rest of the episode. Okay. And instead, let's just have
a theological debate.
the classic fight over what alignment really means.
Wait. Is that like, that sounds like the worst form of capitalism. That reminds me of like, there's a book from the 1920s about just like the meatpacking industry. I'm trying to remember its name.
The Jungle. Upton Sinclair.
Jungle. Thank you. Yeah. And that's the book that I'm thinking of. Is that what I should go for?
Great example of it.
But it's not the only example. I mean,
it's
two other 1920s examples that would be perfect are Heart of Darkness and Nostromo by Joseph Conrad.
Hmm.
Also, great looks at neutral, lawful evil in action.
Oh,
But
geez, spotted the snitch. I don't want to be a snitch, but I also don't want to be super about me. Yeah, I'm going to go with what I said, lawful good. And people just have to deal with me just, upholding the law
all
for
that
the better
lawful
of
good is,
society.
lawful good
Is that it?
takes this stance largely. And again, there's shades of gray, but your prototypical lawful good is, yes, there's rules in place, and do you know why they're in place? It's so that everybody can benefit, and so society maintains its best face.
We,
It,
we have a paladin, right?
no, you do not have it. Oh, yeah, you do have
Yeah,
a
we do.
paladin. You do have a
And
paladin.
he's
Not a
lawful good, right?
paladin.
Yes,
No!
he is
How is
lawful
he
good
not
by.
lawful good?
I think he is. I think he
He's
chose.
got to be lawful good as a
No,
paladin.
because we're playing with paladins as of a god rather
Yeah,
than
but
just.
he chose lawful good.
Oh, he did.
Oh, okay. Now I'm even feeling better about this alignment. At least
Okay,
I got
so you're lawful
a
good.
buddy.
My perspective on lawful good is why everybody becomes lawful evil.
Yes, lawful evils are often disappointed lawful goods when they find out that that not everybody is interested in. It takes everybody to agree for a society to maintain lawful good, and unfortunately, everybody doesn't.
Right.
I don't agree to that.
You don't think so?
Okay, that's why you're an advocate for that alignment. Okay, we're moving on to the third one, right?
So we're
Cleric
gonna go
half
with
orc.
the half orc,
Chaotic neutral.
chaotic neutral. Okay, do you want to roll for the god that you're going to worship or not?
Yes.
Okay,
Can it be Gorham?
Gorham.
Is that a god?
That got half orc.
It's a god of war? I don't know. Is that a thing?
Well, there is gods of war for half orcs, believe me.
That's the idea. So
Okay, so let's go with
we should still. Okay.
let me
How about
see
how about a
many-
chaotic neutral god that you've got there that might be half orc themed, whether greater or lesser?
Okay, well, here's the problem: you're playing an orcish character. All right.
Okay.
If you want an orcish god, he's probably going to be lawful because orcs are very tribal. They're very into society.
Okay.
So
Are there any
hierarchy's very
orcish
important
gods
to orcs.
that broke the norm?
Let me see. You could always pick. You could always pick Yurtrus, which would be a great choice for you because the other half orc cleric also worships Yurtrus, and he's lawful. He's neutral evil.
What did I pick? I picked chaotic neutral. He's neutral evil.
Your three choices for your choices for your gods of the orcs are lawful evil, neutral evil, lawful evil, neutral evil, lawful evil. Do you sense a theme?
Oh man, are there any other that are chaotic neutral? I don't want to worship
really.
a new.
But remember this: you don't necessarily have to be the same alignment as your god. However, it will put you in a position where if you're playing your alignment, you may not be pleasing your god.
No, and that's why I want to please my god. So I got a problem now because I want a chaotic neutral character, and this guy.
Then what you can do is you don't have to worship a traditional orcish god. You may worship from your human side.
I'm gonna just do neutral evil and do Utrus as you suggested.
Wow.
I'm gonna cave. I'm caving.
White-handed.
Why not? Why not? I'll have another buddy in the party.
You will.
That's the point, So
this group is horrible. You are just comprised of horrible people.
And two lawful good characters.
I love it.
The sole survivors.
I love it. This is awesome. Okay, so now
how do you spell the god? How do you spell the god before we move on?
Yurtrus.
Okay, that was a tough one. Ready?
Yurtrus. Okay, yeah, Abathor and Yurtrus. These wow, that's pretty awesome. Okay, so anyway, now we're going to talk about equipment. Okay, for these characters. All right, And the easiest way for us to talk about equipment is we'll talk about what you envision your character is using as far as weapons and armor go, okay? But before we do that, we're going to roll for your how much starting money you have. All right? And, sorry, wrong book.
Got my dice.
Oh, you'll need them. This is a good place to roll high.
Those look too big.
Because as David and I mentioned before, these money can be very much a resource management game. The more resources you start with, the better position you're in to succeed.
I was going to say, with greedy and evil characters, I better roll higher.
Actually,
Never even see more gold.
Greedy gets a bonus for his starting money.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead and roll me 3d6 for greedy?
3d6. 6? Come on, baby! 6! Yeah!
Are you being serious?
I just max rolled, baby! That's what's up!
Wow. He starts with 270 gold.
I don't know, it sounds like a lot.
It's still not enough to buy plate mail, though.
You come from a rich background, man. Wow. Okay. Let's talk about your monk. He's going to be the opposite spectrum, okay? Roll 5d4.
Oh my god. These are the D4s.
Yep, they look like
all right. 4, 3, which is 7, 3, which is 10, 3, which is 13. Oh my god. That fell on the floor. What even is that?
13? What is that?
I have no idea what number this is. I don't know how to use this D4, and I just lost my other one.
We're going with medium.
Oh, 2. Okay.
That's exactly what I was going to go with anyway.
Great.
So that was 15 you rolled, right? Total?
I think so.
15 gold pieces. That's what you
got.
got.
You got it.
One guy has 270, the other has 15. Talk about rich man, poor man.
Well, and they're not going to get along either, so.
Oh, no, they won't. They'll hate each other. Okay, so tell me about your tricks. Give me another 3d6. And by the way, how come you couldn't roll that for your wisdom?
I couldn't tell you. 1, 3. So that's 5.
40 gold pieces for this guy.
Okay.
Okay, so do you have access to a player's handbook?
No.
Okay, well, that's fine. I'll give you access to a player's handbook right now. We're going to give you some time to go ahead and make up this character as far as your statistics go. In the meantime, while we're doing that, Dave and I are going to talk about resource management because we had a dialogue that we wanted to come up with. But I will tell you also a little bit more about what you're eligible to take as weapons and armor for a cleric and a monk because it's very restrictive. So if you give me just a moment here to get you a link. Copy. And oh, Jake, you're cracking me up, man.
It's Monday, right? Is it wine
Monday.
time? I think it's wine time for Monday. It's wine time.
You guys and your reticence to being on a medium where I can just send you a PM. There we go. About time.
Where are you sending this?
To your email.
Okay, and what do I owe you for the book?
Nothing.
Where do I have to? Okay.
Nothing at all. I can't believe I just did that. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about resource management, Dave, a little bit, and first edition while we're going with this.
Wait! Before you start, what am I supposed to do with this book?
Oh, you're going to see in a second. We're going to get to you in a second.
Oh, okay. So I'll open it and wait for my cue.
Yeah,
Got it.
What we're doing right now is I'm filling up a little bit of empty space while I get a chance to send this to you.
Okay. I was gonna say because it's like here I have a book.
Oh no!
Go.
I'm not gonna do you like that, man. I'm not going to do you like that. So, Dave, as far as the games that you played in before, you said just now that you felt that the games that you enjoyed most were the ones where they were resource management heavy. And why is that?
So there's this thing that happens in my experience only. Let me clarify. When people play Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, any role-playing game I've played, where the primary purpose is to role play. And I'm a role player, don't get me wrong. Like I don't have to be doing nothing but combat. But what I do need is to not be taking turns waiting for each other's turn, if you follow me. Yes. I don't like to sit there and watch somebody ham it up for 20 minutes and not advance the story, the plot, the adventure, the module, the campaign. And I mean, there can be a place for that during a campaign here and there, but I don't want that to be what I'm dealing with constantly. Yeah. And so taking the simulationist approach that comes from the older school resource management heavy type style tends to just keep things moving, despite the addition of, some rules that aren't necessarily simple to administer. I just get real frustrated by that. And incidentally, I mean, as much as I love today's, the Twitch streams and the YouTubers who play Dungeons and Dragons, I see an awful lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Jig, by now you should have received your link. Did you get it yet?
3rd edition, 1978 by Gary Gygax.
Oh, wow. Isn't that old school? Go to page 35.
Okay.
And you will see your basic equipment and armor, your costs. 35 and 36 is where everything is, okay?
It looks like it's by class?
It is by
race?
On page 35 and 36.
I'm on 35. This is a monster manual.
I sent you a monster manual by accident? No way.
It looks like a monster manual. Manual. Multi-monster.
My bad. I'll send you the right one. I sent you the wrong link.
For shame.
Yeah, for shame. Please go ahead and finish your thought there, Dave.
Oh yeah, I mean it's especially as I've gotten older. I know I'm never going to recapture the glory days when me and a gang could play for 16 or 24 or 36 hours straight. Those days are pretty much over with, right?
Right. And although we will try our best to get them back.
I hope so. I mean, I'm super excited, but I want to move forward. I want to see what happens when my character hits, a level higher than 3rd again.
Right.
And you're not going to get that, or I'm not going to get that very specifically if I'm playing with people who want to ham it up and who want to act, and that stuff's fine. And I feel like you can slip little bits of that in all the time and make things that much better for everybody. It's just that whole, I don't know, I'm a trained interrogator. One of the things that I see is the face that people start to make when they're just waiting for their turn.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as a DM,
enjoying it.
As a DM, I think one of the most underrated skills of being a DM is being able to read your table, being able to read your players and sense when that is happening, and being able to adapt to that. So I definitely feel where you're coming from with that. That's a big.
Now, interestingly, I'll say.
Did you get your?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, 35 and 36 is where you want to get your equipment from. And as soon as Dave is finished with his thought, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's prohibited.
I will say that we can link this conversation right back to what Jakes was talking about at the beginning about the forum. You wrote this magically descriptive world, and it's impossible for us not to engage in it. But unfortunately, what it also meant was for like 6 months, we barely left the room.
It's so
and
tough.
and it was, but it's so good. And that's the big difference is what you wrote and then what each of us wrote in response to it was so good that when it was your turn again and you were thinking, oh, I won't engage and that way we'll move forward.
Right.
You couldn't help it.
Right.
You had to. And you just, sometimes I almost wondered if you were thinking the exact same thing. You probably were. I know now.
I did at sometimes that I would have something not happen just because I didn't want to, I wanted to progress a little bit more. Jigs, as far as your character goes, we're going to talk now about what weapons and armor are permitted. Okay. Clerics are able to use any armor and any shield you wish, as long as you can pay for it. However, your weapons are extremely limited. You may use the following weapons: a club, a flail, a hammer, a mace, or a staff. That's it. That's the list. All right?
Flails.
Flails are nice. And you can also use flaming oil if you want to use flaming oil.
Is that something you throw?
You can set people on fire,
Yes,
but you
it is.
can't hit them with a dagger.
Flaming oil in D&D in first edition, the old schoolers will always tell you 2d6 hit points of damage is going to do way more damage than most hand-to-hand weapons will ever do.
Unless you accidentally drop it on your face.
That's true, too. You can also... Fire is a very dangerous thing. You can smoke up an entire corridor and kill your whole party. So there's a lot of good things and bad things to be said about flaming oil use.
What
Now,
was the life of these?
Goes, buying equipment is really easy and it's really hard at the same time because you can use no armor. You can use no shield. However, here's your weapons: bow stick, club, crossbow, either kind, dagger, hand axe, javelin, joe stick, pole arm of any kind, spear, or staff. And you cannot use flaming oil.
What's a joe stick and a bow staff? What are those things like?
A joe stick are both martial arts weapons that are similar to the staff. They're both shorter.
No, I mean in the game though. Like, what are they like? Do they have reach? What's their damage? Are they heavy? Do they have specialty?
Damage in that they do 1d6 points of damage. However, the damage that they do to large-sized creatures differs. It does 1d4 of the bow stick and 1d3 for a joe stick against larger creatures.
So the bow staff sounds.
I've had a lot of monk players before.
Yeah. What's a fun monk item? What's a powerful one?
Like
this guy's got a lot of strength.
Crossbow is always good if you can afford it. If not, the staff or spear is a great one. I like spear personally, but that's just me.
Does that have reach? That 10-foot thing?
Reach works a little differently in 1E than it does in 3, 4, and 5. And what we do is we deal in squares, and it will have reach in a sense, but it won't have the same kind of statistical advantage that it would in a 5e or a 3e game.
But it sets to receive charge.
But it does set to receive charge.
Okay, against ponies. Okay, let's see here.
Or against charging monsters.
Or against ponies.
Let's do one at a time. Or against
charging clerics of your troops that want to kill you.
Okay. So the first character, cleric, dwarf.
He can afford just about anything on the list. So
yeah, 270. Let's do this guy. So is banded the best plate that I can get? That's 90.
Not only is banded the best armor you can have, I can argue that banded mail is the best armor in the game, and I'll explain to you why. Because hear me out here. Plate mail armor reduces your movement rate to 3. Banded mail keeps it at 9. It is minimal bulkiness for your armor. It's the highest armor class, lowest armor class you can have while still retaining your movement rate.
Okay. I'm sold. Banded. Got it. And that's
it's also the coolest looking.
It is very cool looking too.
So that's minus 90, right? So that brings me to 180. Now, that's armor. So what's the next thing for this guy? What do I want to whip around?
Make a decision whether you want shield or not.
Absolutely shield and probably a flail because Lamb got excited about it.
The only thing you have to decide
Dave got excited.
Is are you going to use a horseman's flail, which is the light flail, or the heavier flail, which is the footman's flail.
Hmm.
Are you going to be mounted most of the time or not?
Where are we playing again? We're going into dungeons, right?
I'm not
Yeah.
telling you a thing.
Yeah. Well,
You could
okay.
be underwater for all you know.
Okay. Which ones are these? One-handed weapons? Is there a war axe? I can't use an axe. Is there a war club?
Yep.
Is there like a dwarven?
A club does 1d6 points of damage for each of them. I think that if it were up to me with this character, with the fact that you've got so much cash, I think I would probably go Footman's Flail if it was up to me.
Footman's Flail.
That's
okay. Hold on.
Much damage. Oh,
where is that? Footman's Flail. It's only 3 gold pieces though.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh well, come on! I was expecting to spend 25.
You're going cheap on me.
It's like a small log chained to a stick.
It really is. A Footman's Flail is. Yeah.
Sold. Footman's Flail.
Ooh.
Banded Mail. Footman's Flail.
That rhymes, and you know it rhymes.
Hey man, clubs only. They don't get impaled. All right, so we're gonna do a shield too.
Okay, so we've got a banded mail, we've got a shield, we've got a footman's flail.
You just rhymed too.
I did. And we're going to go just across the list with your weapons and armor first, and then I'm going to have you do your miscellaneous equipment next.
Well, I wanted to do a shield.
Okay. So we know that your monk cannot use a shield. What is the price?
Oh, hold on. But the cleric wanted a shield with his footman's flail.
Yeah, we got that.
So what kind of shield should I get?
You can. That's up to you. But remember, the more cover you have, the better. But it could be a problem with bulk, depending on how much you want to carry around.
Okay, well, I want him to be agile, right? With we got the special kind of banded mail, right? I want full movement.
If you want to go with that, then I would recommend going with a small shield.
You got it.
In which case, you're still going to get your armor class bonus. And remember, you're a dwarf, so small is fine.
Sweet. All right, you got it. So small shield, is that wood? Is that metal? Can we upgrade it? Can we put spikes on it?
Now that's an improvised weapon from that you're thinking of from 3rd, 4th, 5th edition.
Maybe
you can go shield bash with it later on. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay, right small shield, got it.
Shield and a footman's flail. At this point, we're going to move over to your monk. We know you cannot use armor. You cannot use a shield. What weapon would you like to use?
I don't know. Something devastating that's fast and devastating. Is there something like that? Come on, like a war axe?
Spear?
What?
Spear.
A spear? I could use a spear with my monk? Do I want...
In fact, it's highly recommended that you use a spear.
Of all your choices, that's absolutely the best one, in my opinion.
Oh, not even the glaive Guisarme?
Oh, dude, I mean, if you could take that, I would throw every other weapon under the bus.
Right? That's your favorite. I knew it was James. You love Guisarmes, dude.
Halberd's available. It's a pole arm.
Well,
I mean,
Guisarme or halberd, spear. Isn't that just a spear with an edge?
I love 1st edition, but this is completely incoherent at this point.
I'm gonna go. I would say spear.
Okay, spear. Okay, you got it. Spear.
I almost regret taking halberd because, unlike in real life, I can't set it to receive a charge.
Well, keep in mind this about halberd too. The biggest problem with halberd is if you were playing in a conventional game, finding magical halberds laying around is tough. But I'm a little bit more.
So you know what's funny? I was reading an old fanzine last night from like when 1st edition was I think it was before the player's handbook had come out. And somebody was pointing out that, like, hey, if you choose anything other than like the basic weapons, you're never going to find a magic weapon.
You can come in, Sarah.
Right.
And I'm just going to say, I never had a DM play that way. We had a Vorpal mace once. Yep. Literally, like if you roll a 20, you hit the dude's shoulder and his head falls off.
Yeah,
like,
I do the same thing. I do the same thing. There's a character in one of my pre-gens I remember that has an all-pike flame tongue. It depends on what you got. Now, Jig, we've got your cleric of your truce, who's your half orc right now. Your truce is the god. By the way, if make that explicit to you. He's a god of disease, pestilence, and death for the orcs. He's a god to be feared. He's the white-handed one. He's the one that you do not want to see when you die. So gods of clerics of Yertrus are given respect by other orcs because he's just like the one you don't want to see when you die. Any idea what you want to go with for your armor?
For the monk, not the
No,
monk,
your
for the
character
last character here.
Yep.
Well, I have 40 gold.
Yep.
So that limits me.
Yep.
In this circumstance, I can't spend all my. I'm going to go with studded.
Studded leather, good choice. And are you going to use a shield or not?
This character is going to use a two-handed weapon.
Ooh, nice. Okay, well, what are you going to use?
I don't know. Is there anything racial I can pick? Does that exist?
Yeah, actually, according to the monster manual, orcs seem to have a liking for polearms. This is something that wasn't really explicit to me when I first read the monster manual, but having done some research on it recently, if you look up the random roll, 40% of the time they have a polearm. So I'm going to say that picking a polearm, which is legit for them, as long as it's a blunt one, would be a good choice.
Okay, what should we do to make a racial polearm possible?
What your options are.
Going to the map.
I am going to say that you really, unfortunately, I don't think you can use any of them. Yeah, you're limited to your club, flail, hammer, mace, or staff. So if you want something brutal that just inflicts a lot of damage, footman's mace.
Nope, no damage. Just how about any racial weapon? No racial weapons?
Not really, no.
Okay. Then this
Why are you
guy's
gonna bring that into it?
Well, because he's a half orc, and I've played a half orc before.
Everybody does hate half orcs.
Double-headed axe, man. The double-headed half orc axe. I'm just interested, but can't do it.
These kids these days. Oy vey.
They crack me up.
Okay,
how about you could always go Warhammer?
Nah, I'm not going to be doing much damage with a six, maybe 7 strength. We're going to go with a mace and move on.
Hey, have you ever seen what happens when a baby hits somebody with a hammer?
A baby?
Yeah, like you give your baby, whatever, a child, a small child.
Why not a mace?
They swing a claw hammer at your face. You're going to duck. I'm just saying.
Why not a mace?
He's not wrong.
Right, yeah, the mace. That's.
Would you like the footman's or the horseman's mace?
The footman's. No, I'm gonna go with a horseman's mace because the other one's in use by my other character. Let's switch it up.
And did you want to change your mind about the shield, or you want to go shieldless?
Well, it is a one-handed weapon, so yeah, we'll do a small shield.
Okay. By now, you should have a remainder amount of cash. Go ahead and outfit your character as you wish through the remainder of the list, using what cash you have left over. I do not think you're going to have a ton of cash left over for your Utrus, and I don't think that there's going to be a ton of cash left over for the monk. So this is mostly going to be an Abathur thing. In the meantime, we were talking about resource management. We were talking about what the pros and cons of playing a game that are heavy resource management. The only thing that I could see as a con for a heavy resource management game, and I've played in some games like this, where you feel at times like you're more of an accountant than you're a gamer. Where you're sitting there and you're counting everything down to the last copper. And that's fine for character generation. In fact, I think that's an expectation for character generation because you're trying to eke out everything you can to start with. But when you're DM gives you your first bit of treasure, and the next thing you know, you're sitting there worrying about things down to the copper or down to the sling stone and things like that. Sometimes it gets a little bit onerous, I've found in certain campaigns.
So one of the ways we used to deal with that,
Mhm.
And what was really standard operating procedures. That was a huge deal for us. And I mean, you use them for things like every time we came to a door.
Right.
This is the thief's going to do this. Everybody's going to set up. Like, we didn't even mention it. We just tell the DM, like,
Exactly.
number one, baby. And it was almost the same thing. Like, we didn't say, like, we're going to go buy 5 arrows to replace. We're just, he would know every time we go in and we're going to do this, 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 and this. And that would include restocking some basic rations, maybe, if he was tracking that, but definitely like ammo. We would check to make sure that that our gear wasn't so damaged that it was about to fall apart.
Sure.
Because we had a DM who loved to do that. Like, oh, your armor fell off. Like, what? Oh, yeah, the laces came undone or whatever.
Oh,
like,
boy.
The laces rotted, that
Brutal.
kind of thing.
Now, that is really a good way to do it. In fact, when I ran my first Marquesa game over at GaryCon, I remember Luke Gygax, the very first thing he did was he established SOP for the party. What the methodology was going to be for certain situations. Jig, did you have a question? You look like you were perplexed.
I got an Excel sheet open.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So in any case, yeah. So I think that having an SOP is really good for that. It does reduce a little bit of the weight of that experience where you feel like you're doing more accounting than you're doing playing.
I think it's important that you do that for the DM too, and that's stuff when you go into town, you say like, hey, when we get back to town, we're doing number 2, right? Like plan 2. The DM doesn't have to worry. He's like, okay, they didn't forget that much, so I give them the benefit of the doubt that their equipment is maintained, their ammo is restocked, their food supplies,
and all their laces on their leather armor are intact.
Yep.
That's terrible. How you gonna do your players like that?
Well, we're talking about the same DM who like murdered one of my friend's characters by. This was one of those games where you could go to the magic shop, the village magic shop, and he's like, "Oh, it's a hat. It's gonna be like a hat of intelligence or whatever." And he puts it on, and it was a hat of stupidity. He strips off all his clothes and armor. He levitates in the middle of the village square. And the villagers freak out because they don't like nudity, and they throw spears at him until he dies. and that's how like they were having a beef outside the game, I think, and that like it turned into a huge
I have
argument.
never heard anything of that like before in my life. That is a new. We're at another level now.
13-year-old boys.
Did that really happen?
That is one of like my formative never test magic items experiences.
Well, I don't mind never tasting magic.
Because if your DM secretly hates you,
it happened. It happened to me too. I went in a room. I was a fighter. I straight up ran up to like a piano. I was like, I'm gonna start playing it. It's like you slowly float into the air. The wind starts rushing around you. Yeah, it went downhill from there. But we got out of there. But similar experience.
I think one element of this thing, real quick, that I'm always super curious to see how it's handled is magic items.
Okay.
I'm always curious how the DM handles it. I've seen everything from you just got a +1 sword to like you got a sword with an especially ornate handle, and then that's it. And it's like cast detect magic.
Yeah,
go find identify. Test it.
Much like your concept about how heavily everything is tracked. My answer to that, if you would have asked me that question, how I do it, I'm kind of a hybrid of the two approaches. I'm kind of a hybrid of the magic item approach as well. I will tell you that your magic item, when you find it, I will describe it to you. It will be much like the latter approach. It's got an ornate handle, da 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 da. If you cast detect magic on it, it's magic. Hey, great. Once you use it a few times and you get a feel for it, I tell you explicitly what it is.
You play a lot of roguelike games on your computer when you were young too.
I did.
That sounds a little.
It did play a lot of roguelike games. Moria in particular.
That's my favorite was Moria when I was a teenager.
I played a lot of Moria back in the day in college, but when I should have been studying, but or I should have been at practice. Anyway, yeah, I'm kind of a hybrid of the two approaches in which. But that's just magic weapons. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff. It becomes evident after you use it a couple times really what it is. And I don't mind telling you at that point in time, just again for the ease of gameplay, especially in a game that's really casual. If we're going hardcore, then in that case, I'm a lot more hardcore. I'll play it where, hey, this is what it looks like. You take it to your sage or whatever. Oh, yeah, that's a sword that was used by so-and-so, whatever. It looks like, there's a kenning in a particular poem that says that this thing was used to do this. I can go that route, too, with it. It really depends on...
And for those of you who haven't experienced Carlos's magic items when he does that stuff, incidentally, he can write like 3 pages of really fantastic backstory to your weapon.
I mean,
he's done some really cool stuff, and I've only played with him a very little bit.
I am more than willing to devote the time to writing a really cool backstory to a magic item. In fact, for magic items, it's one of my favorite things to do. I hate that approach that a +1 sword is just a +1 sword, and the reason I say that is because I play a lot of magic users. Okay, I know how much it costs to enchant a +1 sword. That thing, you better damn well believe that if I'm taking the time and go to the expense and resources to make that thing, it's gonna have a story. What do you got, Jig?
Clothing. So I've managed to get all 3 of my character sheets laid out and some's going. All right, okay, so I got all my original equipment good.
With clothing, this is where Dave, I'll cue you up right now.
Can I just be naked as a monk?
I'm gonna give you your clothing for free. I'm not going to make you worry about paying for clothing.
That came with the character.
So I have a question.
Okay.
What counts as clothing?
Yeah, it's backpack clothing.
Right.
No. Your clothing is your basic clothing that you have.
Do I get a bedroll with that?
You want anything special?
Can you wear it?
We're talking. You're going to pay for it.
Okay,
it's a bedroll special. Can I get the bedrolls?
I do not see you walking around with a bedroll on right now.
It's a shawl.
You've never hung out with me in real life, clearly.
It's a cape. Yeah, you should see David the house. He throws it around himself,
Right. What if I want judicial robes? Is that for free?
It's a bedroll. It's an improvised bedroll.
I want a merkin ball.
What's a merkin ball?
Anyway,
let's not go there.
Okay.
So, at any rate, yeah, I do. I like that. I like that approach to magic items because it's very expensive for magic users in first edition to make a magic item. So if you're going to do something,
it makes it very special for us as well. I mean, let's not forget a +1 sword. That's great when you're first level or something. But if I've got a story that goes with it, and I've built a character to the point where he earned that item through play, I can make a huge difference.
I can get a light war horse.
I just realized that we have some. When I do these character creation, these character generation episodes, I try my best to pretend that we don't have an audience. I forgot that we had one. Gitano and Elistra, thanks for tuning in, but. I love his comment here. Yes, I just have townspeople throw spears for no reason at all. Oh, that's so good. But there's no better feeling, Dave, seriously, as a DM, than when you give a player character a weapon that is clearly much more game mechanically powerful than another one, and they choose to use the first one because of the story that's wound up into it. As a DM, that's got to tickle your heart. I mean, you've done a good job then. What do you got, Jake?
Can my monk ride a donkey?
Yes, you can.
Can I ride a goat?
No, you're a human.
Okay, just checking.
Just keep in
Okay.
mind that if riding the donkey, your movement rate is going to be about the same. In fact, as a monk, you're going to be slower riding the donkey than you are going to be.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how he's going to get around. When my dwarf cleric, this greedy dude, he can get a light war horse. Is that a bad buy?
A light warhorse for your monk?
Why not? Right?
I don't care what you. I don't mind. I don't necessarily think it's a bad or a good buy.
I would.
Any suggestions here? What do I need? A horse, a backpack, some food, a
I'm
bedroll?
going to tell you, I got no pack animals and I got no riding animals.
I will say this for you, Jig. When I was doing my last game I played in, I got to play in Alan Growe's absolutely fantastic Castle Greyhawk. And we were making ourselves characters. One of the very first things I made for my character, or I bought for my character, is I bought a dog. I bought a war dog. And because a war dog fights better than a
That's not in that manual.
It's not.
No, it's not.
I got a guard dog. That's an expensive dog. 25 gold for that dog.
One, and let me tell you, it was painful, but it'll be worth it.
Oh, I'm getting a guard dog right now. That's it.
Although I did go through the monster manual, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that's not even listed. So
don't have food.
It's just a DM special. Your DM could be like, yeah, you bought a Chihuahua or whatever. It can guard, but it can't fight. It can just yip.
Come on, seriously, that thing will fight better than you do until you're second level.
Okay, I'm getting a guard dog. There is no war dog unless it's a weapon.
Guard dog.
Okay, guard dog. Yeah, I just bought one. Bam.
Don't forget to name your guard dog.
Okay. Yips.
I didn't name my guard dog.
Also, don't forget when you're in the dungeon and your dog starts barking randomly, that is a clarion call for monsters from all around to swarm you.
Oh, come on. This is a well-trained guard dog. I mean, he's 25 gold.
Oh, he's well-trained. You better feed him, though. You better treat him right.
Oh, okay. So don't get belladonna. All right. Don't feed him belladonna or buds of garlic.
It's kind of dirty the way you asked it.
Better feed him.
So, yeah, I do like magic items like that. I think they should be special. I think they should be rare. I think they should be more than anything. They should don't introduce a magic item into the game unless it's going to bring a certain amount of flavor to the game. I think that it's very important to do that. Because
don't be afraid to take them back either.
Without that sense of wonder, really, you lose it very quickly.
I mean, yeah, you can't forget that it's a game, right? It's supposed to be fantastical. This whole, I want low magic. I've never bought that, and this is me talking. I'm a cranky old man.
You're not old at all.
There's nothing wrong with that. And in fact,
keep me interested, right?
I think that Greyhawk in particular gets a real bad rap to that. Everybody's like, Greyhawk is low magic. Greyhawk is not low magic, bro.
I did this weird thing as a kid once where I wrote down every single magic item from Temple of Elemental Evil. I don't remember why I thought to do that, but I just literally just one per line all the way. There's a lot of magic in that, man.
I can do you one better. I've done that for about 10 different modules because I was doing a study before I started launching Castle Entertainment modules to calibrate how I was giving out magic items in comparison to the Gygaxian stuff. And I realized I was cheap as hell about magic items compared to the Gygaxian stuff. Then that was a revelation to me because I was thinking to myself, you know what? Actually, what that's doing is it's truncating my players from being able to do stuff like training costs and things like that. So, what do you got, James?
Can my guard dog pull a cart?
It'd be a very small cart.
Can I get a very small cart?
Yeah, but why?
To carry all my gold.
It makes him less useful.
Yeah, until I cut him loose to be a guard dog.
How are you going to have the guard dog carry all this gold?
Buy a goat and have the goat pull the cart. Plus,
the cart pulls the gold. No, holds the gold. The dog pulls the gold like a working dog. You know, he's a guard dog. He's guarding the gold. No, can't be dual purpose.
The tracing and everything you're going to need for that is going to cost too much.
Tracing?
You
Get
gotta need
outta
all the
here with
gear and
that.
tackle and stuff.
Tackle
No, you
on
can't
my
have a
guard dog.
your guard dog.
Oh man, like how am I going to carry this stuff around? I need a horse now.
Well, maybe you should buy a horse.
No, can the dog keep up with the horse?
Sure, why not?
Oh,
He's
okay,
laden with
okay.
gold. He's laden with enough
Make a
gold.
bigger, stronger character carry it for you. Aren't you evil? Which
Right, not only
character are we
that, yeah,
talking
you've got
about?
a friggin' monk there with a 17 string. What's he
Yeah,
doing?
but first of all, he's good, and he's not interested in getting paid to do this kind of thing.
Well,
I
then he'll
don't think.
do it for free because he's your buddy, right?
Oh well, I mean, he's kind of a nice guy.
Now you're thinking
Trick
like
him into believing you're good. Problem
he does
solved.
have a lot of strength, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a
Well,
lawful sucker.
I was gonna get the dog to do it. Come on, I'm evil.
Here's the thing, dude. If you're evil, you're just gonna steal some stuff, or we're gonna ransack a couple places. We'll get some hirelings. Problem solved. It's cool.
Okay, so just hirelings. Like I need a place to put this.
Serious.
Don't I need a chest?
We're goofing off here, but really, don't forget about the hirelings.
Oh, okay.
For a couple silver, like you can get some schmucks from the village to carry your junk for
just
you.
get the toughest looking kid from this village and say, "Here's 10 copper, pal. We're
What's
going
this?
over here. You're carrying this torch."
Right.
He's gonna run away with it.
His little friend can bang coconuts together and pretend that you're on a
very
horse.
well run away. So you better pay him good.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Pay him well, half now, half later,
Either
kind of
that
thing.
or have your guard dog behind him.
Well, maybe I just get 2 guard dogs, right?
You could do that.
Yeah.
Guard dogs you get.
Oh, okay. Well, why not? I'll figure this out.
Get a sled team of them. I don't care.
Yeah, then I can carry cart. Yes, if I have 2 guard dogs, can I carry cart?
No, I think you'd be more like at least 6 guard dogs.
Oh, darn. That's like all my gold.
Yeah, isn't that a shame? Anyway.
So this actually leads back to another question about the concept of simulationism and resource management. How do you deal with time? So we've cleared the entire first level, and we've blockaded anything from coming up from the second, as an example. And we can't carry all the loot.
Right.
So we don't want to do like 10 gaming sessions where it's like, okay, you guys go into the dungeon, and yet again, there's nothing in there. And
what I will do is
bring the stuff back.
After you do the clearing, what I will do at that point in time is I will ask you your intentions for what you plan on doing. If you were to tell me that was your move, I would do wandering monster checks for the amount of time that you would want to do that offline, and we'd go ahead, we'd roll forth with them all. This is what happens during that time. Day 3, you're down there, you're still in the process of clearing out. This happens. Day 27 happens. That's basically how I would handle that.
That's what I'm familiar with.
Yeah, that's how I would deal with that, which is, again, a hybrid approach. So I think that it's kind of like you don't want to have to deal with that onerous, tedious, hey, 50 days later kind of approach.
Right. I mean, hey, if you keep track of the time and say like, okay, it's going to take you guys 3 months to do it, and then you mark 3 months off the calendar.
Sure.
And then, hey, that could lead to something else. Like, oh, well, you didn't intend to stay in the village that long, but you're there to watch their festival, and some weird stuff happens.
Exactly. Or the kids say, hey, my dad says I got to come home. Your torchbearer says, Dad says I got to come home. Mom says it's almost harvest time, and,
we can handle your dad, kid. Trust me.
I got to.
So copper.
You're lawful evil, so you sure could.
so basically, silver is 10 cents and copper is 1 cent. Is that how this works?
20 silver to a gold.
Oh, this thing again. Okay.
Yep.
Oh gosh, conversions. How do I do this?
I wanted Carlos to switch to the silver standard to make it extra confusing.
No way.
I love the silver standard. I've been ever since I read that in whatever Dragon magazine first brought it out.
I use a silver standard in Fireland because
how do I track this in Excel?
Does it make sense? Huh?
How do I do this in Excel? It's like 20 per, so it's
he's
0.5.
he's trying to make
So it's
change.
0.2. So 0.2. Yeah. So, okay.
Download
So
Dungeon Maestro.
if it's right, we used a thing before this, but there's conversions and sheets and you can refer back to them with formulas. Basically, it's 0.2. No,
You got to remember
that's not
something
right.
about this, Jigs. Back in the
Oh,
day,
geez.
there was no such thing as technology. So
Yeah,
this game
0.5.
wasn't
Had slide
designed
rules.
with that in mind.
Back
We
in Harry
counted on our
Potter. All right.
fingers back then.
No, the funny thing is, I feel like I used to be able to do this stuff in my head when I was like 10.
I could still do it.
And now I'm hopeless.
I can still do it to some degree because I really haven't stopped playing one.
Oh, God, they have Electrum in this, too. Oh, no.
That's the best piece in the game.
Right, because it weighs its weight and its value.
I just like the sound of it. Also, I mean, this is a great example of how Gygax taught me about stuff.
Right, exactly.
What the hell is Electrum?
Exactly.
Actually, back then, when I was young enough, I didn't know what the hell platinum was either, for that matter.
I don't know how to calculate these values.
Of our viewers right now, Gaetano just said, "Excel, what is this strange magic? Pencil and paper is what we use."
Oh my God, how do I do this?
I don't think any of us remember how. Jigs and I don't remember how to do long division. Trust me.
Jigs, you can go ahead and you can go ahead and finish this offline like the other guys.
That's what I'm going to do.
Don't feel like you have to do this right now.
No, make him do it. Turn up the lamps so that he feels like the pressure.
It's not a huge deal. Your character is by and large ready for gameplay.
Okay. I'm ready.
I bet he doesn't have any dungeoneering gear, and then he's going to come to my characters to mooch.
Oh, come on. It started with a backpack, belt pouches, ropes, candles. I'm trying to do their cost. And now I was going with 10-foot balls, baby.
We're going to have like a nice dinner. I mean,
why not?
There's nothing wrong with that.
So I like candles.
Jigs, here's your homework for after we're done with the game.
Oh, geez. Convert.
No, it's really easy. When we reconvene, you will have your equipment list done. You will have a name for all three of your characters. And you will have a 1 or 2 sentence description of what they're like and where they come or where they come from, what your concept for them is. For example, you might say, shoemaker's son out for adventure, or fugitive from justice on the land.
I'm just laughing because these sound like really funny personals.
Yeah, well, that's what it should sound like. That's exactly what I want it to sound like. And the reason I say that is because these characters are the expendables for real. Okay, these guys, the chances of them dying are way higher than of living. And if you spend the time to make a 3-page backstory on it, you got a real lot of guts because you probably made it for nothing. The chance of you getting killed within 10 minutes of this game is high. So I don't want to. These are the kind of things that we want to develop during gameplay. For example, after your first adventure, you go back to the village, and you're the shoemaker. We'll say you're the shoemaker's son out for adventure. Well, you come back and you find out that there's a wooden clog festival in town. Oh, I'm a shoemaker's son. Well, you go up there and you find out that all these things are really substandard, we'll say. Okay? And then you get to tell me more about how you develop your character based on that little hook. So things will develop organically that way. Okay? And
that got me excited. Dave was telling me about this. Yeah, how this happens.
It will develop organically. For example, you might tell me we might be at the end of this adventure, okay? And you may say, Jigs, what do you do? Well, my half-orc goes to see his brother. You don't have it listed on the character sheet, but you don't have to. I just learned something new about your character. As long as your brother isn't the king of Keoland, I really don't care. It's just make it so really cursory like that, and we'll develop as we go.
Okay.
That's your homework. This is probably a lot simpler and a lot more straightforward of an experience than you're used to in later editions. But more importantly, there's one thing that this should teach you about first edition as opposed from 5th and 3rd edition. By now, if you were playing a 5th or a 3rd edition character, you would have this character planned out to 20th level. you would tell me that you were about ready to take a dip in fighter at 4th level, or dip in ranger so that you could get this feat, or you would take you would take whirlwind feat so you could have access to this down the road. But if you don't take it at this level, then you would cut yourself off from this path. That's what you'd be doing right now if you were playing 5th or 3rd edition. Right now, this character is a blank sheet. You could do anything with this guy. He could be anything at this point, and he will. You will have the opportunity going down the road to make them anything. And to
if
me,
they survive.
to me, that's way more exciting. Is having these wide open vistas that this character could literally be anything, rather than having it pre-planned out that I want to do this, and this. Now the story will help dictate that. Maybe when you go to train, you hit 2nd level. It's time to train. And I decide that the guy you're training with is a spear fighter, right? And he has a special technique where he says that I have a special technique where we call it the unicorn charge, all right? As long as I run up to my I make a charge on my opponent, I can do X more damage. But it has this drawback. That's in no book anywhere. And I tell you this, Jig, you're eligible for a new proficiency. Would you like to learn Unicorn Charge?
The best part of your Black Ice campaign for me was the moment where, there were some magical items that were outside of the lines of perhaps what might be in a book, but were inside the universe that, we were inside of. And that got me so excited. I was like, yes, the magical bow is so cool. I got so excited. And I was like, this is so awesome. And I'm reading, and then forums and
I know.
Oh, here we are. This is exciting.
I'm glad, and I'm glad that you're pumped about this. I think I have the makings of a party now. I have 3 characters for Dave. I have 3 characters for Jigs. I have 3 characters for Cad. And I just realized that none of you guys has a name over 4 letters. That's interesting. But anyway,
hey, I do.
That's random. No. I'm talking about your real names, Dave, Jigs, and Cad. It's very interesting, but that's as random as that might be. No, you have the makings of a really cool party. You've got a lot of different things going on. There's already personalities that are starting to emerge from these characters.
What do we have?
This is what you have.
A really interesting party.
I should mention this. I should mention this to the people who are watching, who didn't get a chance to see the first character generation. Okay? Dave's 3 characters are as follows. He has a true neutral dwarven thief. He has a lawful neutral dwarven fighter. And he has a lawful neutral dwarven fighter. The difference between the 2 of them is that one of them is super strong, but doesn't have very many hit points, and the other one's a tank, but is only of moderate strength. That means, now we'll go over to Cad. Cad has a half-orc lawful evil cleric of Yurtrus, the god of death for the orcs. He has a chaotic good human magic user. He has a half-elven paladin lawful good. And now we'll move over to Jigs. He has a dwarven cleric that's neutral evil, who is rich as hell but has but 1 hit point to his name. We have a human monk who is pretty beefy for a monk at 1st level, and we have a half-orc, another half-orc cleric of Yurtrus who's neutral evil. So we have a lot of extremes in here, but we're going to find out. Thanks, Gaetano. I appreciate that, man. We've got a lot of really diverse characters in here, and what we'll find out is how all these puzzle pieces fit, and that will emerge throughout the game. Some of you guys will hate each other. Some of you guys will come to an understanding, even though you have different alignments. Some of you guys might form factions within the group, and that's all fine. I don't mind that. To me, the game is organic, and you're the drivers. I'm just a universe. So whichever way you guys want to take it, I'm excited about that. So, unless you guys have anything before we sign off, I think we're good for the evening. Dave, Jigs, you got anything? All right.
What's the next step?
The next step is the game. I am going to we're gonna take a couple weeks here for me to actually develop something for you. I've already started doing some rudimentary mapping and some a little bit of campaign building. I've got a couple other commitments for game stuff I'm doing right now that take precedence. But in a couple weeks, I'll be done with it. We're going to reconvene with the three of you and a special casl talk, and we're going to do an adventure to get you and Cad with your feet wet in first edition. You may start screaming now if you wish.
This is so cool. I'm so stoked.
I'm excited too. I'm really excited.
I'm so stoked.
I'm so stoked because I actually get a chance to play with some of my some guys here that I've played with before in a far different way, but I've always longed to play with you guys around a table. I mean, we used to talk back and forth back in the day about convening at GaryCon. Well, this is pretty close in a way, and I think this will be really fun.
Yeah, I don't know if Dave's getting up there anytime soon. Still trying to get him.
I know. I'm trying my best. Well,
I have family watching right now from Wisconsin.
You got to take baby steps with this. You got to take baby steps with this, Jigs, because what my first plan was, I'm much more insidious than this. What we're doing first is we're going to drag him back into the game.
Oh.
We're going to drag him back in the game, get him interested again, get him collaborating with me again, and then we're going to say, you know what, Dave, maybe we could premiere one of our projects at GaryCon.
Oh,
have you there,
don't give him the long play yet.
Oh. Well, I mean, the funny thing is, that was my long play to begin with.
I know, that's why I pulled it back.
Oh, plot twist!
Yeah, no, right, like that's
plot twist.
I wanted to do that.
I know.
Seeds inception.
But seriously, I think we'll get him sooner or later, Jigs, as long as we just keep persistent here and we have a fun time, man. And I can see already playing with you guys is going to be a lot of fun. I can see Dave as the meticulous calculating player already. Jigs is our lever puller, and Cat is going to be our hybrid who's learning about the game. And I can't wait. That's exactly the three kind of archetypes you need to have in a party. You need somebody who's going to drive action through their actions. You need the guy who's going to actually hold the whole thing together, and you need that inquisitive person. And we've got that. So I'm really excited about all the building blocks are in place to have something really cool happen.
It's a party.
Yeah, I'm just not going to let you down here as far as the scenario goes. I'm developing it as we speak. When we're done, you guys will get an email from me, and we will do a very special casl talk. It'll probably be caslHawk at that point in time. I'll probably have you guys on one of my episodes at caslHawk Chronicles, and we'll go from there.
Wow.
Cool. I'll tell you what. Since we've got all that said and done, we're going to go off the air for the evening. I'm going to go off the air for the remainder of the night because my throat is raw after about 6 hours of talking straight now. I got to eat some dinner with the wife and hang out, and this is going to be a lot of fun. And for those of you guys who are out there watching us, thank you so much. We're going to be uploading it to YouTube here pretty soon, and you guys get a chance to watch again if you want to. Thanks for supporting us, everybody out there. You make this possible. For my buddy Dave, my buddy Jigs, I'm Carlos, and thanks for watching casl talk tonight. Have a good evening.